Hello, my friends. Welcome back to. Let me ask you something. How many weeks have slipped through your hands because of distraction, procrastination, or wasted energy? How often do you end a week exhausted, yet feeling like you've accomplished almost nothing? The Stoics faced the same challenge. They understood that life is short, and that time, our most precious resource, is constantly slipping away. For them, productivity was not about doing more, but about doing what truly matters with clarity, focus, and discipline. In this episode, we'll explore 9 Stoic habits that will give you the most productive week of your life. These are not just hacks or tricks. They are timeless practices tested for centuries. From winning the first battle of the morning, to mastering self-control, to protecting your mind through deep rest, every habit you'll hear today is designed to sharpen your focus, protect your time, and rebuild your energy. Stay with me until the end, because each of these habits builds on the other, creating a system of resilience and unstoppable momentum. And if you're ready to master not just your week, but your entire life, subscribe to Stoic Reflections, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Together, let's reclaim our time and live with clarity, strength, and purpose. Habit 1. Win the first battle of the day. The Stoics believed that every day is a battlefield, and the very first fight you face is not against the world, but against yourself. It happens in those quiet moments when the alarm rings, when comfort whispers, "Stay in bed a little longer," and when your body longs for ease instead of discipline. To most people, this moment seems small, almost meaningless, but Marcus Aurelius himself wrote about it in Meditations. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" Even an emperor, with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, wrestled with this same battle. And he understood the truth. If you lose the first battle of the day, you surrender momentum to weakness. Winning the first battle of the day is not about waking up earlier than everyone else or following a rigid routine. It is about proving to yourself that discipline is stronger than comfort. The bed is warm, the body is heavy, and the mind invents excuses. But when you choose to rise anyway, you send a message to yourself, "I am in control. My impulses do not own me." This single act of self-command shapes the entire day. The first victory becomes a chain reaction that strengthens every decision that follows. Seneca, in his letters, warned about the danger of drifting aimlessly, of allowing inertia to dictate our days. He said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Staying in bed longer than needed, delaying the start of the day, is one of the most common ways time is wasted. It feels harmless in the moment, but it quietly teaches your mind that excuses are acceptable, and once excuses are accepted in the morning, they spread like poison throughout the day. Winning the first battle prevents that decay. Epictetus pushed this idea further. No man is free who is not master of himself. The first battle of the day is your first test of mastery. Do you own your body, or does it own you? Do you command your time, or does laziness dictate it? By rising with intention, you practice freedom. You prove that you are not a slave to sleep, to lethargy, or to comfort. In practical terms, this doesn't mean forcing yourself into extremes. You don't need to wake at 4 a.m. to live with stoic strength. What matters is consistency and intention. If you decide to rise at 6:30, then rise at 6:30. If you decide to use the first minutes for reflection, journaling, movement, or silence, then commit to it fully. By doing so, you take control of the narrative of your day. Instead of starting in defeat, hitting snooze, rolling over, surrendering to inertia, you begin in triumph. Think of how different 2 mornings feel. In the first, you wake late, rush through your tasks, feel guilty for lost time, and spend the day reacting to chaos. In the second, you rise when you said you would, begin calmly, and feel the strength of self-respect coursing through you. The day has the same number of hours, but the results are worlds apart. The difference? You either won or lost the first battle. Marcus Aurelius framed this battle not as punishment, but as purpose. He reminded himself, "You were born to work, to act, to serve the common good." Rising in the morning was not about deprivation, it was about embracing life's duty. For us today, this principle remains. Winning the first battle of the day means stepping into responsibility, into clarity, into the work that makes your existence meaningful. Practical exercises can help. Place your alarm across the room so you must physically rise. Begin the day with a Stoic reflection, perhaps a passage from Meditations or a short journaling exercise to remind yourself of your purpose. Or commit to a brief movement routine, even just 5 minutes, to shake off lethargy and anchor discipline in your body. These are not rituals for ritual's sake. They are deliberate actions to win the first fight. The Stoics understood that small victories accumulate. Winning the first battle does not guarantee a perfect day, but it sets momentum in your favor. Each time you conquer yourself in the morning, you strengthen your capacity to conquer bigger challenges later. Discipline compounds, and so does weakness. Which one grows depends on how you rise. So remember this. Every morning, life asks you a question. Who is in control, you or your comfort? Each time you choose discipline, you choose freedom. Each time you rise when you said you would, you reclaim your day. This is why the Stoics began with the first battle of the day, because if you win here, you set the tone for everything that follows. Comfort loses its grip, clarity takes its place, and momentum carries you forward into a week defined not by excuses, but by strength. Habit 2. Focus on the 3 tasks that matter most. Productivity is not about doing more, it is about doing what truly matters. The Stoics understood that a life wasted on trivialities is a life half-lived. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly in Meditations, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was not morbid pessimism, but radical clarity. If today were your last, would you spend it buried under endless emails, distractions, and meaningless errands? Or would you channel your limited energy into the few actions that carry real weight? Busyness is the great illusion of progress. Many people mistake constant activity for achievement, but Seneca warned against this trap. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Wasting time doesn't always look like idleness. It often disguises itself as busyness. Hours vanish in shallow tasks that look important, but bring you no closer to your highest purpose. The Stoic way is to strip life to its essentials, to ask each morning, what are the few things, if done today, that will truly move me forward? Modern psychology echoes this Stoic wisdom. Studies on productivity confirm that multitasking scatters the mind, while focus creates flow and efficiency. The brain is not designed to split attention endlessly. By trying to do everything, you dilute your ability to do anything well. The Stoics would see this not only as inefficient, but as a betrayal of duty. If you have the gift of life today, why waste it scattering your energy instead of concentrating it where it counts? Epictetus was direct. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple instruction contains the essence of habit 2. Decide who you want to be and what truly matters. Then align your daily tasks accordingly. If your goal is wisdom, study. If your goal is health, exercise. If your goal is peace, practice detachment. But do not confuse distractions with duties. Focusing on the 3 tasks that matter most requires ruthless honesty. Each day, write down the top 3 actions that, if accomplished, would make your day a success. Not 10, not 20, just 3. They may be professional, personal, or spiritual, but they must be meaningful. Completing these tasks first ensures that no matter what chaos follows, your day has weight and direction. Without this clarity, you risk ending each day exhausted yet unfulfilled, unsure where the hours went. Consider Marcus Aurelius again. He did not have the luxury of endless time. As emperor, father, soldier, and philosopher, he faced more demands than most of us can imagine. Yet his writings reveal a man who constantly filtered noise from necessity. He knew that saying yes to everything meant saying no to what truly mattered: justice, duty, and self-mastery. If even an emperor had to focus on essentials, how much more do we? This habit is also an antidote to procrastination. Often, procrastination thrives not because tasks are hard, but because they are vague and overwhelming. By reducing the day to 3 meaningful priorities, you cut through confusion. Each completed task fuels momentum, and momentum creates confidence. As Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." Using it means directing your focus like a laser, not scattering it like dust. Practical application is simple but powerful. Each morning, or better, each evening, list the 3 tasks that matter most for the next day. Do them early, before distraction multiplies. Protect the first few hours of your day for deep, undisturbed work. Turn off notifications, close unnecessary tabs, and treat your focus as sacred. When interruptions arise, remind yourself, does this serve my 3 priorities, or is it noise? Choose accordingly. The Stoics saw life as urgent. You don't control how many tomorrows you get. What you do control is how you use today. If you fill it with trivialities, you betray your potential. If you fill it with essentials, you build a life of substance. Habit 2 is about this choice. Productivity is not about speed, it is about direction. 3 meaningful tasks, done with focus and discipline, outweigh 100 shallow ones done in haste. So remember, every day is a page in your life story. What you write on it depends on where you place your energy. The Stoics teach us to place it where it counts. Win the morning with habit 1, then honor your purpose with habit 2. Focus on the 3 tasks that matter most. Busyness will always tempt you, but clarity will always free you. And freedom, as the Stoics knew, is the ultimate form of wealth. Habit 3. Energize yourself through movement. The Stoics understood something that modern science continues to confirm. The state of the body influences the state of the mind. A stagnant body creates a stagnant mind. When you allow yourself to remain motionless, trapped in comfort, your thoughts grow heavy, your spirit dulls, and your discipline weakens. But when you move with intention, you awaken clarity, strength, and focus. For the Stoics, physical activity was not vanity, it was philosophy in motion. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, reminded himself not to grow soft in the face of luxury. In Meditations he wrote, "When you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, remember your nature. Were you made to snuggle under the covers? Or were you made to work, to act, to endure. For him, movement was duty. Rising from bed itself was a form of discipline, and activity throughout the day was an affirmation of life's purpose. Each act of movement was proof that he belonged to the world, not to comfort. Seneca spoke often of the balance between body and mind. In his letters, he emphasized the need for exercise not for appearance, but for resilience. He wrote, "We should conduct ourselves both in our training and in our lives as if we were preparing to endure the greatest hardships." Physical movement was not about lifting weights for beauty or running for competition. It was about training the body to support the mind when storms arrived. A disciplined body strengthens the will, making you less fragile in the face of challenges. Epictetus, born into slavery and enduring lifelong physical pain, understood this truth intimately. He did not see the body as separate from philosophy. To him, caring for the body was part of caring for the soul. He urged his students to endure discomfort, to treat physical training as preparation for life itself. The Stoics did not worship comfort, they practiced endurance. Movement was the practice ground for resilience. In the modern world, movement is often undervalued. We sit for hours, our minds flooded with noise, our bodies neglected, and then we wonder why our thoughts are scattered, why fatigue overwhelms us, why discipline feels impossible. The Stoic answer is simple: energize through movement. Walk daily, stretch, breathe, engage in exercises that strengthen both the body and the will. These acts are not trivial, they are anchors of clarity. Consider how different the mind feels after a walk in fresh air compared to hours slouched before a screen. The Stoics knew this contrast well. They used walking as meditation, reflection, and renewal. Marcus Aurelius often dictated his reflections during military campaigns, surrounded by motion and action. For him, stillness of mind did not require stillness of body. In fact, movement often unlocked insight. The key is intentionality. Random activity does little, but deliberate movement sharpens the mind. Start your day with stretching or breathing exercises to shake off inertia. Insert short walks between tasks to reset your clarity. Engage in more demanding training not for vanity, but for resilience. Each act of movement says, "I am alive, I am capable, I am ready." This affirmation fuels productivity and mental strength. The connection between body and mind is also reflected in the Stoic practice of temperance. Discipline in movement prevents indulgence in idleness. When you exercise self-control over your body, you exercise self-control over your impulses. Every rep, every step, every bead of sweat is a vote for resilience. This is why the Stoics saw physical training as philosophical training. It built character as much as muscle. Practical applications of this habit are straightforward. Commit to at least one form of intentional movement each day. It may be as simple as a brisk 20-minute walk or as structured as a workout routine. When fatigue or anger rises, step outside, breathe deeply, and walk until clarity returns. Treat your body not as an ornament, but as a vessel for your mind's power. By keeping it strong and active, you sharpen your ability to think, decide, and endure. Habit 3 reminds us that productivity is not purely mental, it is physical. A clear mind rests on an energized body. The Stoics knew that when you move with discipline, you ignite a chain reaction. Energy fuels clarity, clarity fuels action, and action fuels resilience. This is how movement becomes more than exercise. It becomes philosophy lived out in every step, every breath, every act of discipline. So the next time you feel sluggish, unfocused, or unmotivated, remember the Stoic truth. You are not tired, you are stagnant. Move, energize, Awaken the body, and you awaken the mind. This is the Stoic way to reclaim clarity and power. Not someday, but today, through simple, intentional movement. Habit 4. Boost clarity with journaling. The Stoics practiced writing not as a luxury, but as a necessity for clarity and self-mastery. For them, journaling was not about recording daily events. It was about shaping the mind, sharpening awareness, and anchoring themselves in what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, perhaps the most famous Stoic text, is nothing more than his private journal, never meant for others to read. Yet it remains one of the greatest works of philosophy ever written. Why? Because through the act of writing, he trained his thoughts, stripped away illusions, and spoke truth to himself. When your thoughts remain unexamined, they swirl chaotically. You replay the same worries, amplify the same anger, and drown in mental noise. But when you take pen to paper, you slow down the storm. Writing forces the mind to choose words, to order ideas, to see clearly what before was only a vague cloud. The Stoics knew this truth. Thoughts become manageable when they become visible. What feels like an unshakable burden in the mind often shrinks into something far smaller once written. Seneca understood this well. In his letters to Lucilius, he used writing as both instruction and reflection. Each letter was a way of clarifying his own thinking while guiding others. He once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." By journaling, you expose these imaginary sufferings, these exaggerated fears, to the light of reason, and once exposed, they lose their power. Epictetus also emphasized self-examination, urging his students to test their impressions before acting on them. Journaling is one of the simplest ways to perform this examination. Instead of reacting blindly to impulses, you write them down and interrogate them. Why am I angry? Is this thing really within my control? What story am I telling myself about this event? These questions cut through confusion and anchor you back to Stoic principles. In practical terms, journaling does not need to be complicated. A few minutes each morning or evening are enough. The morning journal can set your intention. What virtues will I practice today? What challenges do I expect? And how will I respond with wisdom? This is a practice of premeditatio malorum, preparing for adversity before it arrives. The evening journal, in turn, can be used for reflection. What did I do well today? Where did I lose control? How can I improve tomorrow? Seneca described this very practice, reviewing his day as if standing trial before himself. The power of journaling is not in eloquence, but in honesty. You do not write to impress, you write to uncover. This is why Marcus Aurelius's Meditations often repeat the same themes. He was not trying to produce new ideas, he was reinforcing old truths. He reminded himself daily to expect selfishness from others, to remember death, to practice justice and discipline. Repetition trained his mind the way exercise trains the body. For us today, journaling remains a powerful Stoic habit. It can be a notebook, a digital document, or even voice notes transcribed later. What matters is the act of capturing thought and confronting it. You will notice patterns, recurring fears, repeated failures, common distractions. By writing them down, you gain the perspective to address them instead of remaining enslaved to them. Journaling also builds gratitude. By recording what you value, what you learned, and what went well, you counterbalance the mind's natural bias toward negativity. Marcus often reminded himself of the simple gifts of life: waking up, being able to breathe, being able to act with virtue. When you journal gratitude alongside reflection, You strengthen your ability to see life not as burden, but as opportunity. Think of journaling as a mirror. Without it, you walk through life unaware of the dirt on your face. With it, you see clearly, and you have the chance to adjust. The Stoics treated journaling as self-maintenance, like sharpening a sword before battle. The battle was life itself, and the sword was the mind. Habit 4 is not optional if you seek clarity. The modern world bombards us with distractions, opinions, and endless noise. Without a practice of anchoring your own thoughts, you become a victim of external chaos. But with journaling, you reclaim sovereignty over your mind. You no longer react blindly. You respond with reason, perspective, and calm. So make writing a daily ritual. Do not judge the quality of the words. Judge the honesty of the reflection. With each entry, you clear the fog, align with your values, and prepare for life's storms. As the Stoics proved, the pen is not merely a tool for recording life, it is a tool for transforming it. Habit 5. Break the cycle of procrastination. Few enemies are more destructive to discipline and productivity than procrastination. It does not shout, it whispers, it tells you there is more time, it convinces you to delay the essential in favor of the comfortable, and, like rust-eating metal, procrastination erodes self-respect slowly, silently, until entire days, weeks, even years vanish into nothingness. The Stoics saw procrastination not just as laziness, but as a profound misunderstanding of life itself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again that time is the most precious resource. In Meditations he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say, and think." His words strike like a hammer against procrastination. When you grasp the fragility of life, delay loses its disguise. The excuse of tomorrow collapses because tomorrow is not promised. The Stoic approach is urgent clarity. Act now, because later is an illusion. Seneca, too, warned fiercely about procrastination. In On the Shortness of Life, he said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He observed that people guard their wealth, but squander their time, the one treasure they can never regain. Procrastination is the ultimate waste. It drains life's most sacred resource. Each delayed action is not neutral. It is theft. It steals from your potential, your progress, and your peace of mind. Epictetus offered the practical correction. He taught, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" His words expose procrastination as self-betrayal. To wait is to abandon the present moment, to reject the chance to act with virtue right now. For the Stoics, virtue and action are inseparable. Procrastination severs them. Why does procrastination grip so tightly? Because it feeds on comfort and fear. Comfort whispers that ease now is better than progress later. Fear convinces you that failure will be too painful, so you delay indefinitely. Together, they build a cycle. Delay leads to guilt. Guilt weakens confidence. Weakened confidence fuels more delay. The longer the cycle continues, the heavier the chains grow. Breaking this cycle begins with awareness. Journaling, as we saw in Habit 4, reveals patterns. Write down when and how you procrastinate. You may find you delay hardest tasks, emotional conversations, or new beginnings. Awareness transforms procrastination from a vague habit into a clear enemy you can face. The next step is small, immediate action. The Stoics knew that momentum builds from the tiniest spark. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we dare not do things because they are difficult. It is that we make them difficult by not daring to do them." In other words, Tasks grow monstrous in imagination. The antidote is to act before the imagination has time to inflate them. Break big projects into small, concrete steps. Do the first step immediately, without overthinking. Action shrinks fear and breaks inertia. Modern science supports this Stoic wisdom. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks weigh heavily on the mind, creating stress. By starting, even with something small, you lighten the load. The act of beginning signals to the brain, this is happening, and once momentum begins, procrastination weakens. Another Stoic practice is premeditatio malorum, the rehearsal of difficulties. Before starting a task, imagine the obstacles: boredom, fear of failure, resistance. By anticipating them, you strip them of surprise. When they arrive, you are prepared. This prevents procrastination from gaining its usual advantage of ambush. Discipline also requires reframing. Procrastination feels attractive because it promises relief, but relief is false. It delivers guilt and stress instead. Replace the narrative. See immediate action not as pain, but as freedom. Each step taken is a vote for self-respect. Each delay is a betrayal of it. Ask yourself in the moment of temptation, do I want comfort for minutes or freedom for life? Practical tools strengthen this habit. Set a timer for short sprints of work, such as 25 minutes. During this time, forbid distraction. When the timer ends, take a brief break. This Pomodoro method echoes Stoic focus. Attention is sacred, and protecting it in small bursts builds progress. Another tool is accountability. Tell someone your goal, and let the social contract push you forward. Even the Stoics, though self-reliant, valued the pressure of community to sharpen discipline. Habit 5 is not about eliminating procrastination forever. That would be unrealistic. It is about breaking the cycle each time it begins, before it grows. Each small act of defiance against delay strengthens your will. Over time, your identity shifts. You stop being the person who postpones, and you become the person who acts. So remember, procrastination is not harmless. It is silent theft. The Stoics call you to act now, not recklessly, but decisively, with clarity. When you delay, you lose twice, once in the time wasted, and again in the weight of guilt. But when you act, you win twice, once in progress made, and again in self-respect earned. Break the cycle today. Do the thing you've been delaying, not tomorrow, not later, but now, because as Marcus reminded himself, you could leave life at any moment, and when that moment comes, you will never regret the things you did with courage, but you will regret the things you left undone out of fear. Habit 6. Invest in deep learning. The Stoics knew that wisdom was not gathered from scattered fragments, but from sustained, disciplined engagement with truth. Seneca warned against the trap of shallow stimulation in his letters. Be careful, however, lest this reading of many authors and books of every sort may tend to make you discursive and unsteady. His warning applies even more urgently today. We scroll endlessly, skimming headlines, tweets and videos, mistaking information for knowledge. But true wisdom, the kind that fortifies the soul, demands depth, not speed. Deep learning means choosing quality over quantity. It is the decision to sit with an idea long enough that it reshapes your mind. Marcus Aurelius did not try to devour every philosophy available to him. Instead, he returned repeatedly to a small set of principles, journaling them, reflecting on them, and engraving them into his character. His meditations are evidence of a man who valued repetition and digestion over novelty. By chewing on wisdom daily, he transformed philosophy into lived practice. Epictetus embodied this as well. He told his students, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." But embodiment requires understanding, and understanding requires depth. A single Stoic principle, if studied deeply, can change a life more than 1,000 shallow ideas forgotten in passing. The Stoic approach to learning was not accumulation, it was transformation. They did not care how much you knew, they cared how much of what you knew you lived. In modern life, shallow learning is seductive. The brain craves novelty, the quick hit of a new fact, a new clip, a new insight. But this novelty rarely lasts. You forget it as quickly as you consumed it. Worse, it gives the illusion of progress while leaving you empty. Deep learning, in contrast, requires patience and discipline. It feels slower, but it builds something enduring, clarity, resilience, and wisdom that stay with you in moments of trial. Consider the difference between someone who skims 50 motivational quotes versus someone who meditates daily on a single principle like control what is within your power, release what is not. The first person might feel briefly inspired, but the second person builds a foundation of strength. When insulted, betrayed, or struck by loss, the one who practiced deeply will stand firm, while the one who skimmed will crumble. Deep learning also strengthens productivity. When you invest in mastering a subject, a skill, or a principle, you eliminate wasted time. You stop chasing novelty and focus on integration. This focus compounds. A musician who practices scales with precision daily grows exponentially compared to one who flits from piece to piece. A student who studies one concept deeply becomes more capable than one who touches everything lightly. The same applies to philosophy. By diving deeply into Stoic principles, you gain tools for life, not just entertainment for the moment. Practical applications of this habit are simple yet powerful. Choose one book, one idea, one practice, and commit to it for weeks or months. For example, read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations not once but daily until phrases live in your memory. Or pick Seneca's warning about time and reflect on it every evening. Life is long if you know how to use it. Ask yourself daily, how did I use my time today? This depth turns words into guides, not just decorations. Another practice is journaling in response to reading. Don't just highlight lines, write your own reflections on them. Ask, what does this mean for my life? How can I apply it today? Writing forces engagement and clarity, anchoring the idea deeper into the mind. Without this step, knowledge floats above you. With it, knowledge roots itself within you. Deep learning also demands silence. Epictetus taught that reflection requires stillness, the ability to sit with your own mind. In a world of constant noise, creating quiet space for study is an act of resistance. Protect time each day for reading, study, or meditation. Let it be uninterrupted, free from distraction. In that silence, wisdom seeps deeper. The Stoics remind us that we must train our minds the way athletes train their bodies. Quick hits of novelty are like eating sugar, brief energy followed by emptiness. Deep learning is like nourishing food, sustained strength that supports growth. Each hour invested in depth is an hour that compounds over years into resilience and mastery. Habit 6 is essential because without depth, all other habits weaken. Winning the morning, focusing on tasks, journaling, breaking procrastination, these are strengthened by wisdom, and wisdom comes from deep learning. Without it, you risk living on the surface, reacting blindly instead of responding wisely. So, choose depth. Refuse to be scattered. Protect your mind from the shallows of endless consumption. Pick the truths that matter, the principles that last, and dive into them until they shape who you are. As Seneca said, "It is not how much you read, but how well you read that matters." Read well, study deeply, and your life will reflect wisdom, not noise. Habit 7. Recharge with intentional breaks. The Stoics knew that life was not a sprint, but a marathon, and no one can run endlessly without rest. Yet rest, to them, was never laziness. It was a tool, deliberate, disciplined, and purposeful. Seneca wrote, "We must indulge the mind, and from time to time allow it the leisure which is its food and strength." Notice his words. Leisure is not escape, but nourishment. Breaks, when used intentionally, do not weaken productivity. They sharpen it. The modern world has twisted rest into distraction. People collapse into endless scrolling, shallow entertainment, or mindless habits, and then call it recovery. But such rest does not restore, it drains further. The Stoic model is different. It teaches that true rest renews clarity, energy, and purpose. It is not about avoidance, but alignment. Rest is not fleeing life, but preparing to engage it more fully. Marcus Aurelius himself, even under the crushing weight of leading Rome, emphasized balance. In Meditations, he reminded himself to withdraw into the mind. People look for retreats in the country, by the sea, or in the mountains. You always have the option of retreating into yourself. For him, rest meant moments of inner retreat, pausing the noise, anchoring in reason, and returning to duty stronger. He did not see retreat as weakness, but as a sacred responsibility. Epictetus also warned against indulgence that masquerades as rest. He emphasized moderation, urging his students to align their actions with virtue. For him, a break that leads to weakness or indulgence is not rest, but sabotage. But a pause that restores discipline and prepares the soul for greater challenges is essential. The Stoics did not glorify exhaustion, they glorified endurance. And endurance requires rhythm, action and pause, exertion and renewal. The truth is simple. Without intentional rest, productivity collapses. The body weakens, the mind fogs, and decisions worsen. Many people push themselves endlessly, thinking they are practicing discipline, when in reality they are draining themselves into mediocrity. Seneca observed, "We should treat our bodies with more indulgence, so that they may be ready to obey us." In other words, you cannot command a broken vessel. To serve your higher purpose, you must protect your instrument, the body and mind, through proper rest. What does intentional rest look like in practice? It is not hours lost in meaningless distraction, but purposeful activities that reset the mind and body. A short walk in silence, deep breathing to steady emotions, reading a few pages of wisdom instead of endless social feeds, time in nature, away from constant noise. These small pauses are not escapes, but recalibrations. They return you to yourself. The Stoics would have us treat rest as training. Just as muscles grow stronger through cycles of effort and recovery, the mind grows sharper when activity is balanced with deliberate pauses. Pushing without rest leads to burnout. Resting without purpose leads to decay. The wisdom lies in the middle path, controlled, intentional renewal. Modern productivity science echoes this truth. Studies show that performance drops sharply without breaks. Concentration wanes, errors increase, creativity declines. Short, intentional pauses restore energy and sustain focus. The Stoics anticipated this reality long ago. They did not waste life in indulgence, but they did not deny the body and mind their natural rhythm. To deny rest is to deny nature itself. Practical applications of Habit 7 are simple but require discipline. Schedule pauses into your day. Work deeply for a set period, say 60 or 90 minutes, then take a short, restorative break. Use that time not to drown in distraction, but to breathe, stretch, or reflect. Step outside if possible. Let the eyes rest from screens. Let the mind wander in silence. These are not wasted minutes. They are investments in clarity. At a larger scale, set aside longer breaks weekly. A full afternoon of rest, time in nature, or deeper reflection prevents exhaustion from building silently. Seneca reminded us, "Leisure without study is death. It is a tomb for the living man." So when you rest, choose activities that nourish: journaling, reading philosophy, meaningful conversation, or contemplative walks. Leisure should serve life, not numb it. Habit 7 is not permission for laziness. The Stoics despised idleness, but they honored balance. They saw that a life of constant grind without renewal leads to collapse, while a life of indulgence without effort leads to decay. The art lies in knowing when to act and when to pause, and treating both with discipline. So remember, recharging is not weakness, it is preparation. The soldier rests not to escape the battle, but to return to it stronger. The philosopher withdraws into silence not to avoid duty, but to face it with clearer eyes. And you too must learn to pause with intention, to treat rest as fuel, not escape. If you master this, you will no longer confuse distraction with rest, or laziness with leisure. You will rise from every pause sharper, calmer, and more focused. That is the Stoic way, to use every moment, whether action or rest, to strengthen the soul. Habit 8. Master your day with self-control. The Stoics believed that the highest form of power is not the ability to control others, but the ability to govern oneself. All external victories are fragile if you cannot first win the inner war. Anger, impulse, distraction, overindulgence, these are the true tyrants that enslave the mind. Self-control, therefore, is not just a virtue, it is the foundation of freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This single sentence captures the essence of Stoic discipline. Mastery begins within. The challenge of modern life is that temptation is everywhere. Notifications, endless entertainment, unhealthy food, the lure of comfort. Each one pulls at your attention and weakens your focus. Without self-control, your day does not belong to you. It belongs to these impulses. But the Stoics teach us that every pause before reacting, every decision made with reason instead of impulse, strengthens the muscle of self-mastery. Each small act of restraint is training for a larger battle. Seneca described anger as a form of temporary madness. He meant that losing self-control, even briefly, is surrendering reason, the very thing that makes us human. To give in to impulse is to live as a slave to passion. To pause, reflect, and act with clarity is to live as a free man. Habit 8 reminds us that true freedom is not doing whatever you feel like. It is choosing wisely regardless of how you feel. Epictetus sharpened this truth further. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." For him, every external chain could be endured if the mind remained free. A slave in body but free in spirit was stronger than a man who ruled nations but could not rule his desires. Self-control is therefore not optional. It is the difference between strength and weakness, freedom and slavery, wisdom and folly. In practical terms, mastering your day with self-control means treating each moment as an opportunity to train. You feel irritation rising in traffic. Pause, breathe, and remind yourself, does this event control me, or do I control myself? You feel the urge to procrastinate. Take a small, immediate step instead. You want to lash out in anger? Count to 3 and choose silence. Each of these moments is training, reps in the gym of the mind. Over time, these choices compound into character. Self-control also requires structure. The Stoics valued order because chaos breeds weakness. Marcus Aurelius's life was filled with unpredictability as emperor, yet he constantly returned to discipline. He did not control wars, plagues, or betrayal, but he controlled his own conduct. Likewise, you cannot control every demand placed upon you in a day, but you can control how you respond, how you allocate your energy, and how you protect your peace. A powerful tool for self-control is journaling. By reviewing your actions daily, you notice where you gave in to impulse and where you remained steady. This reflection is not for shame, but for growth. Seneca described reviewing his day each night, asking himself, what weakness did you overcome? What virtue did you practice? Through this nightly discipline, self-control becomes sharper each morning. Another tool is premeditation, or premeditatio malorum. Imagine the challenges of your day before they arrive: criticism, temptation, distraction. By rehearsing them mentally, you are less surprised when they appear. The mind, already prepared, resists more easily. As Epictetus taught, foreseeing hardship is half the battle of overcoming it. Self-control is also about saying no. Modern life glorifies busyness and constant availability, but the Stoics valued boundaries. To say yes to every demand is to abandon your priorities. To say no with clarity is an act of self-respect. Every no to distraction is a yes to purpose. Every no to impulse is a yes to freedom. Habit 8 reminds you that mastery is not about doing more, but about choosing less and choosing better. At its core, self-control is the art of pausing. That pause is power. Between stimulus and response, as the modern Stoic Viktor Frankl echoed, lies freedom. You cannot control what happens, but in that small space of pause, you can choose your reaction. Each chosen response strengthens the will, while each impulsive reaction weakens it. So ask yourself throughout the day, who is in control right now, me or my impulses? If you practice answering me often enough, you reshape your character. You become calmer under stress, wiser in decisions, and stronger in adversity. This is not about perfection. No one controls themselves flawlessly. It is about practice, repetition, and growth. Habit 8 is therefore the linchpin of productivity and peace. Without self-control, no other habit stands. You can wake early, plan your tasks, exercise, even rest, but without self-control, all progress crumbles the moment temptation strikes. With self-control, however, you can face chaos and remain unshaken. The Stoics remind us, mastery of the day begins with mastery of yourself. Guard your reactions, govern your impulses, and structure your time. Each pause is a victory. Each act of restraint is freedom. And when you master self-control, you don't just own your day, you own your life. Habit 9. Protect your power with restful sleep. The Stoics taught that discipline is not merely about how you act during the day, but also about how you prepare yourself for the next one. Many people treat sleep as optional, something to cut short in order to get more done. But this is a delusion. Seneca warned against the arrogance of wasting what nature has given us, and sleep is one of those sacred gifts. It is not weakness, it is recovery. Without it, the body falters, the mind fogs, and discipline collapses. Protecting your sleep is protecting your clarity, your productivity, and your peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations about the importance of beginning each morning with strength, but such strength is only possible if the night before was respected. To drag yourself through life in exhaustion is not Stoic endurance. It is negligence. The Stoic ideal is not to glorify suffering, but to live in harmony with nature, and nature demands cycles, effort and rest, activity and renewal, day and night. By neglecting sleep, you violate this rhythm and undermine your ability to live with virtue. Seneca observed, "Life is long if you know how to use it. Many waste their lives not in sleep itself, but in poor sleep caused by indulgence, late distractions, and restless minds. To use life well means to guard the hours of rest with the same seriousness as the hours of work. For what good is winning the morning if the night before was squandered in chaos?" Epictetus would remind his students that the body is the servant of the mind. If you abuse the servant, the master suffers. Sleep is how the servant recovers. To deny it is to sabotage the very tool you rely on for reason, resilience, and productivity. He would argue that self-control includes saying no to late-night temptations, endless entertainment, and restless worry. Protecting sleep is not indulgence, it is strategy. Modern science confirms what the Stoics intuited. Sleep is not wasted time. It consolidates memory, repairs the body, balances hormones, and strengthens emotional regulation. Without it, anger rises more easily, decisions worsen, and focus shatters. How can you expect to live with Stoic calm if your mind is frayed by exhaustion? The discipline of the day is built on the discipline of the night. Practical steps to protect your power through sleep align perfectly with Stoic wisdom. Begin by creating evening rituals that calm the mind. Journaling, as we explored earlier, clears mental clutter and prevents thoughts from racing at night. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on mortality and duty before sleep. This was not anxiety, but clarity, reminding him that rest was part of life's cycle. Likewise, you can prepare your mind for rest by reviewing the day, forgiving mistakes, and setting intentions for tomorrow. Next, detach from stimulation. The Stoics valued moderation, and this applies to modern habits as well. Endless scrolling or late-night entertainment overstimulates the mind and robs you of true rest. Replace these with practices of quiet, reading philosophy, meditating, or simply sitting in silence. In the words of Seneca, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is." A night shortened by distraction diminishes the quality of the next day's tale. Environment also matters. The Stoics sought harmony with nature, and this includes aligning with natural cycles of light and dark. Dim the lights in the evening, avoid constant stimulation, and let your body prepare naturally for rest. Guard your sleep space, keep it simple, quiet, and free of distractions. To sleep well is not luxury, it is discipline. Self-control is also tested at night. How often do we say, "just one more hour," only to regret it in the morning? The Stoics would call this slavery to impulse. Freedom comes from choosing the harder path, turning off the screen, putting down the work, and honoring the body's need for rest. It is an act of humility, admitting that you are human, not a machine. And it is an act of strength, ensuring you rise tomorrow with clarity. Habit 9 reminds us that productivity does not come from squeezing every second of wakefulness, but from structuring life as nature intended. Sleep is part of discipline. To neglect it is to sabotage yourself. To protect it is to sharpen your power. So remember, every night you face a choice. Will you scatter your energy with indulgence and distraction, or will you protect your power with restful sleep? The Stoics would have you choose the latter, for when you rise restored, you carry not only energy, but dignity. And with that, you face the world not as a tired victim of impulse, but as a disciplined master of yourself. We've now walked through 9 Stoic habits that have the power to give you the most productive week of your life. And if you noticed, none of these habits are complicated. They are simple, but they demand discipline. Win the first battle of the day, and you set the tone for everything that follows. Focus on the 3 tasks that truly matter, and you cut through the noise of busyness. Energize your body through movement, and the mind becomes sharper. Journal daily, and you transform confusion into clarity. Break procrastination, and you reclaim your time. Invest in deep learning, and your wisdom compounds. Recharge with intentional breaks, and you sustain your strength. Master yourself with self-control, and no impulse can rule you. And finally, protect your power with restful sleep, so every new day begins with energy and focus. The Stoics remind us that productivity is not about working faster or harder. It's about living with purpose and clarity. Each of these habits is a training ground for virtue. They are not hacks, but disciplines. And when practiced consistently, they build a life of momentum, balance, and resilience. So as you step into this new week, remember, productivity is not measured in how much you do, but in how deeply you live. Apply these 9 habits, and you will find yourself calmer, stronger, and more focused. Not just for a week, but for a lifetime. If this episode inspired you, subscribe to Stoic Reflections, tap the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these 9 habits do you need to practice most right now? Let's build this community of wisdom and strength together. Because in the end, productivity is not about doing more, it's about becoming more. And with Stoic discipline, you can rise each day untouchable, unshakable, and unstoppable.